Hey guys, it's Jacob here, and you're listening to another Dealership Fix-It throwback episode. This one originally aired back in 2022, but the strategies you'll hear are still pretty incredibly relevant today. Our guest was Jared Burt. He was a former dealer, an OEM executive, and the founder of TUFR Tech and now Hero Hub. Back in the heat of the pandemic, Jared laid out 10 bold ideas that the dealership should adopt to not only survive during a crisis, but build a smarter and more future-proof business. So, here's the thing. Many of these ideas, they weren't just for the emergencies at the time. They're actually strategic moves that you can still use today, such as offer better customer convenience, streamline operations, and create a hybrid sales and service model that meets your riders exactly where they are. Sound familiar? So for mobile service techs and virtual reality showrooms, this episode is packed with ideas that can still transform how your dealerships run and how your riders experience your brand. Let's get into it.
I think we're on the same page, and I think anybody that would be listening to this would be of a similar persuasion to understand and know. But I just want to make sure I've really beat that horse to death. I think the organization, the industry that we're in, or these other parallels, whether it's we're in Powersports, the marine industry, RV industry, these other areas, these are all want to do's, not need to do's. I think we all know that, as much as we want to help our customers figure out a way to make it a have to do so that it's a part of their life. They can never go away. Ultimately, it's something they really are passionate about. And, I'm really glad that we're a part of this, even in tough times, because this is something that that people need and want. The old, you don't see a motorcycle parked outside the psychiatric doctor's, office or whatever, that whole idea that it's it's therapy in itself. And I totally believe in that. But anyway, not to beat that horse too far to death, but I was hoping to be able to talk with you about, you had put out an article here not too long ago that really took some of the ideas and concepts you've been working with to the next level and applied them right over top of this, the coronavirus stuff. It's called 10 Ways to Protect Dealerships in the Post-Coronavirus Era. I'd like to talk with you a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I know it's not the best title. Dealer News has taken the article, and they'll be publishing it this Monday in their March issue. And they've retitled it "Beating the COVID-19 Slump," which is probably more, a little easier and catchier. That's why they get paid the big bucks, the professionals that actually publish, as opposed to me, who's just an amateur. But for sure. It's, really the way that this came about. I was on the East Coast last week, and I was flying back to Idaho. And while I was out there, I decided to check in with some dealerships in Rochelle, New York, and Seattle, Washington. And those two regions are significant because these are hot spots for early outbreaks, where there were a lot of confirmed cases in the United States, at least. In Rochelle, New York, and that was, that's 5 miles away from where I was a week and a half ago in New York City. But that's an area where there may still be, but there was at the time a containment order where National Guard was there to make sure that the folks in that community were quarantined. So pretty major stuff. In Idaho at the time, we didn't have one case in the entire state. So it felt pretty good. We held out pretty long, but there were hot spots. And so the dealerships that I spoke to, at least here in my backyard a week ago, really very little concern. But when I talked to a dealership in Seattle, this was a Toyota dealership, and they said, we've taken a lot of precautions. We take steering wheel covers and we put them on all the cars, before we check them into the shop. We're using gloves. We're taking extra precautions to make sure we have a sanitary environment. And it was impressive. I was like, whoa, they're really taking this seriously. And they're taking a lot of precautions for employee and customer safety. And I said, I mentioned that. I said, wow, you guys are doing a lot. Why is that? What are you seeing? And they said, well, a dealership down the road had an employee that had a confirmed case a few days ago, and they closed their dealership over the weekend, and they're open again. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'll call them. So I called that dealership, and this is in the Seattle area, and they were reopened. They said we cleaned everything, but they didn't apply any of those same precautions. They said, hey, if a salesperson tries to shake your hand, just tell them to back off. I said, well, what if I need my car serviced? I'm not comfortable coming into your dealership. Could you come pick it up? And they said, no, we don't do that. We don't have any way to pick up your car to have it serviced and bring it back to the office. And they said, if you want to, you could take it up with management. So that enlightened me. I talked to Harley dealerships. I talked to multi-line Powersports dealerships. And, at this point, there wasn't much effect on business. There wasn't a lot of concern a week ago, but just in a couple cases, there were. And so it made me think, there really are some things like this one dealership that didn't want to get shut down. They were applying some things that I thought I need to get some of that out there. And so a lot of what I got was from that dealership that was in this desperation mode. And so I put that together with some other things that just from a customer's perspective, as a customer, as a rider, and as a former dealership, what I knew that customers would value, especially during this pandemic, because we knew even a week ago this is going to get worse.
What's tough is you think about all the perceptions and how it's been. I don't know, like for Powersports, where my home has been for a lot of years. It's not like there's not plenty of dealerships with wonderfully clean bathrooms and so on and so forth. But ultimately, dealerships in general have I think been given quite a bit of a pass because they're dealerships. If we're talking Powersports, for example, and
right.
In a lot of cases, some RV dealerships are the same way because they might operate out of some little trailer with a deck on it, and they're selling RVs out there, and they don't mind sort of that's how it's set up. It's maybe keeping everything super sanitary hasn't been high on the priority list, and we can give it a pass. And I think that's where I like to think, okay, so something drastic enough is happening that it's a wake-up call because you're saying, that even if you were given a pass before, I think we're past and through that. Expectations, whether they're shared with you or not by a customer, are fundamentally changed, at this point, even though we're not through it, right?
So my motivation for writing this article really which it is available on my LinkedIn page and on Medium, but on Monday it'll be available on Dealer News. But really my motivation for writing these things was in talking to dealerships that were in the thick of it, affected the most early on. How did the best of those react? And what are some of the best things that they did? And so that really was it. And as you mentioned, a sanitary environment. So the first few, one was when I was a dealer, it was kind of a gold star for an employee to come in if you were a little sick. Like you just push through it, you work through it. My granddad taught me that, you just work through it, and you just become a workaholic, and a little fever shouldn't hold you back. Well, that's changed now. There's no gold star for perfect attendance, and and we've got to take that seriously. A sanitary environment. So I recommended a dealer sanitation specialist. So imagine just someone in the dealership that's assigned each day throughout the day to monitor high traffic areas, wipe them down, and just go overboard on cleanliness and making sure the frequency is there, especially in the higher traffic areas, all the counters. And, more than ever, it's critical that we're organized and tidy and clean. And so, maybe we've tolerated messy service counters and parts counters in the past. Well, we need to really make sure that in our dealerships, we have this image of really, really great organization and cleanliness. It's so important now. And then the third item I talked about was just the handshaking. It's a social norm to shake hands. Hugging's become a pretty big thing. Have you noticed that? Is that the same on the West?
Absolutely. Well, in some places more than others, but yeah, a lot of the big, whether it's, two dudes, the big man hug and they hit each other in the back real hard. And it's become so standard, the handshake, when would we go without a handshake, of course, high five, or like you're saying, a hug like that. So
it's just a strict policy. I mean, we have to take it seriously now. No handshaking, no hugging. Sounds silly, but we need to find other ways to show our respect and appreciation. But that's something that has to go away. And then just the other precautions. Number 4, no trace, using disposable gloves as we're handling vehicles, and going from one to another, as to just take extra precaution not to spread. And if customers see service advisors doing that as they pull a motorcycle around and then change out their gloves, that'll give customers a little more confidence, and it also will help keep from spreading infectious disease. And then, the other items that I talk about, those are kind of the first 4. The other items are to promote employee and customer safety, but also they're coupled with customer accommodation during a time when a lot of our customers, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of trepidation. Just like I was a little concerned about going into the dealership a couple days after, an employee was sent home with confirmed coronavirus. You don't know what other employees have it. So during that time, we can accommodate customers in a marvelous way and help them have continuous service and the confidence that they have support from dealerships to continue to pursue that passion that we talked about. I call it social distance riding.
Were you saying that was number 5 on your list?
Yeah, so
Virtual.
Those are the first 4. So going through 5 through 10,
okay,
you've got a virtual showroom. So the websites that dealerships have now need transparent information on everything that the dealership has in inventory available to pick up or to be delivered today. And so I think there's a lot of dealers that do a great job with keeping their used inventory up to date. Every day at least it's being updated. But this goes beyond that to provide more information to customers online about parts, accessories, service jobs that are available, what the pricing is, so that customers can go onto the website and have this real-time virtual showroom. That's a tougher one because it's really not available yet. But we've got to work towards that. You're
speaking my language from, obviously the sort of what I do day in and day out, which is talking about, advertising and units listed and and the depth of making sure what we see obviously is that the better merchandise, the more of the story you're able to invest in it, and it's displayed online for someone. Obviously, the quicker the turn happens on them becoming an owner. But in the same way as what you're talking about, I've said for the last couple of years and talked to guys, and I get a lot of pushback if I'm having a conversation with somebody on like a Facebook group or whatever, and I say, I really wish right now that when I'm interested in something for my motorcycle X, I'd love to be able to jump on my most close proximity dealership, because I've got plenty of guys here in different dealerships that I'm friends with. I buy from, occasionally as I need things. But why don't you begin to make it a little easier for me? If I want to be like, man, what do you have in stock for my Goldwing, my 2018 Goldwing? I want something new and snazzy on there, whatever that is, not the Kuryakin book. I don't want to throw the Kuryakin book at it, but like maybe I want a new windscreen. Maybe I want a new seat. Maybe I want a new name that thing. And I said, I know it's a big hill to climb for guys, especially with a decent sized inventory, but shouldn't I be able to go to your website, and shouldn't I be able to search and say, name these things that are for Goldwing, or name that item? Maybe if I do my own homework and find an item number, maybe you've got them listed somewhere, like you're saying, in real time. And then I can blast out an email, or I can pay ahead and pull up and pick the thing up without, blowing my whole day out, So I think, again, this is in the times we're in. I like to think maybe we'll move some of those pieces because we have to in that direction. I'd like to think that's.
We've got to get to real-time inventory, what's available today in the dealership. We've got to think broader in terms of everything, parts, accessories, services, in addition to the vehicles. Number 7 is I don't want to skip 6. Number 6 is just this idea of virtual advising and sales. And so this is the cyber salesperson. So customers, in Zoom, if you want a stock that's on fire, invest in Zoom. Right now, the web conference is becoming a pretty big deal now with all the work from home. So our customers, more and more, they'll be very, very comfortable a few months from now communicating over web conferencing apps. So this might be FaceTime, Google Meet, Google Hangouts. Facebook has I think it's Workplace, Zoom meetings, and our teams at the dealership need to enable these kinds of interactions. So if a customer is at home or in the office and they're interested in what that Kuryakin windshield maybe looks like, and to confirm that it fits, they might want to connect over FaceTime with a parts expert that can talk to them about that face-to-face through the phone and show them a couple options that are available. And so, imagine them holding it up to a bike in the showroom so that the customer can see what that looks like, just real time. And so this virtual advising, the cyber salesperson, it's not futuristic. We have the technology already to do that, and we can accommodate customers in that way. The same is true for service. How powerful will it be for a service advisor to do a FaceTime call with a customer to show them what is going to be repaired on their bike? That's a powerful thing. We already have the tech to do it, so why not? So the next one is this idea of 7, which would be scheduled shopping sprints. So if customers prefer or need to visit the dealership, then scheduling appointments is even more critical. And a lot of dealerships, some are just getting shut down altogether with governor orders in some states. Pennsylvania is one of those that just shut down all the dealerships there yesterday. But those that are allowed to keep the doors open, at least the back doors, could still schedule private appointments with customers. Even if your showroom is open, scheduling these appointments and then ensuring that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed before the customer's there, so it's not a 6-hour shopping experience. That's really unthinkable. These appointments, these shopping experiences to pick up a new motorcycle, I should be able to go to the dealership and out the door within 60 minutes. And so improving that process for the customer that does come to visit so that they're not stuck in the dealership for 6 hours. They can be out riding a lot quicker. And then 8 is just closing the door on open houses. There's no more hot dog parties. At least I don't see it. The days of cramming as many people in your showroom as possible, hoping that the fire marshal doesn't shut you down. That's just not realistic anymore. So individual experiences with customers and creating personalized experiences is really the future. And so instead of a big open house where you cram a bunch of folks in, identifying and customizing an experience for each customer is what will be preferred. And this might be helping a future rider, a potential rider, have a coaching experience at the dealership where you're teaching them how to ride a motorcycle. This could be a number of different things, but having personalized experiences with customers is even more important now because these big open houses and parties with hot dogs and nachos, that's a thing of the past.
It's been a lot of years since I've been a part of a dealer open house in that sort of old school way, the way I grew up. That was what they were. You showed up in hot dogs and look at the bike and throw your leg over it. Hopefully it doesn't fall down because you're a kid. You're not really supposed to be in there, and sort of the, being in love with that for the rest of my life. But in more recent years, when I see open houses happening, it doesn't feel like an open house in most cases. And I'm not, obviously, some guys really do it up and they probably do a really killer job on it. But I've witnessed a lot more distancing from that being a reality, it feels like, over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So if you're coming into my dealership, maybe I'll find out if you're coming in during lunchtime, I'll find out what you like to eat. I'll order in lunch for you and it'll be personalized. So if you don't want a hot dog, you want a Philly cheesesteak, we'll make that happen and that'll be part of your experience. So I think hot dog, I'm not against hot dog. I'm not anti-hot dog. I want to make that clear.
I got a lobbyist going to call you tomorrow.
I'm just for individualized experiences, right?
Yep.
And then 9 is this idea of pickup and delivery. And there's a lot of other business models that have been around for a while. Pizza made their industry off of local delivery services. And now it's everything. You can get everything delivered in food services now with all the apps and all the services, Uber Eats and everything else. But customers have been becoming accustomed to that. However, given COVID-19, now it's not just about convenience, but now it's about safety as well. And so this is something that dealerships can get really all in on and making it an option with every customer interaction. So finding out, would you prefer to come in at a specific time to pick it up, or would you like me to deliver that to your home or storage unit or office? Just 2 days ago, Camping World launched a campaign where they've now enabled customers to be able to go onto their website, select an RV, buy it, print the paperwork, sign it, mail it back to Camping World, and schedule a day for their new RV to be delivered. Starting just 2 days ago, Camping World has made it possible to buy an RV regardless of where you are, and you never have to set foot in that dealership. I think that's powerful. I don't think everyone's going to do that. I don't think everyone's going to prefer to not go into the dealership, but I think it's brilliant given their older demographic that that is now a service that they provide. That's a possibility. And so regardless of whether that's Kuriak and accessories or a new four-wheeler or a warranty repair that needs to be performed, pickup and delivery needs to be just one of the services that's available at local dealerships. What do you have delivered today that you didn't have delivered?
We started doing that, and then I talked to people in different parts of the country where I grew up in back east and, in the Midwest, and, of course, that they didn't even know that existed yet when we started doing it. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know we were such a trailblazer. It just became normal all of a sudden here because it existed, and then the idea that, of course, lots of food. We're not doing a lot of that right now, but we are, in fact, we're doing it maybe the other way, needing a reason to get out of the house and running to a restaurant that doesn't let you dine in their dining room, but you can get some to-go order from them to support local business that way. But yeah, honestly, it's a lot of things. And I think that's maybe the big shift, has occurred. And here we go. Anything motorcycle. I remember though, working at shops, let's call it in the late 90s, early 2000s, and just knowing as a parts guy, parts manager doing that, like we really should have a delivery service. And of course, then it makes me think of like, Napa Auto Parts, and you picture the guy in the little car, with the little baseball
little
cap.
Chevy 10. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, well, we're not going to do that. That's not going to be us. It'll be just somebody in their personal car, little shop car or whatever. But, my mind, it was like, we should be doing that. Like, I can't get everybody to always come here. Maybe the traffic's a bear, they don't really want to deal with it, or they don't really come to this side of town. They don't really know where we are. They have an idea, whatever the holdup was. I really thought, that was 30 years ago or whatever, 20 something years ago. I really thought we should have been doing it then. But as you'd said, now it's, it's a perception thing. Maybe it's actually a health thing for somebody to be like, I'd let you show up and hand me something at my doorstep. I'm not setting foot in another location today or tomorrow or next month or whatever.
Yeah, it used to just be about yesterday. It was just about convenience for the customer. Today, it's about convenience and safety. And so with the weight of that, it's a very relevant, it's something that every dealership needs to seriously consider if it's not being actively promoted. A dealership recently in Arizona closed through the end of the month, and then they're going to reassess because of the coronavirus outbreak in that region. And they offered an email address that if you need anything, email us. And I think that's good. I think it's good that you're available. I think it's better, and I think it's, even I would say best, if the communication was so clear that customers knew that we're available to provide pickup and delivery, rather than imply, if you need anything, let us know. Let's be very deliberate and clear about providing that service to customers. I think it's critical. And then number 10 is in a similar vein, mobile service, which is to say that there's a lot of jobs, there's some maintenance, and the technicians would be the experts here, how far you could or would want to go with mobile service. But there's some repair, maintenance, or installation that can happen on site. And so rather than driving the customer's vehicle back and forth, going to the customer's, where the customer's vehicle is, and performing that repair on site is a service that is becoming more and more popular in the auto industry and other verticals. For Powersports dealerships, this is something that this outbreak, this pandemic, could increase demand for that, and dealerships that offer the service could retain and increase customer lifetime value, in addition to providing, again, safety value prop for customers during this time. And that's my 10. So I gave away the whole article basically.
Thanks again for listening to this lost tape of the Dealership Fix It podcast. These guest interviews still hit hard, and we're bringing them back re-edited, sharpened up, and focused entirely on what matters, helping dealerships like yours improve, grow, and win. If you got something out of this one, hit that share button or forward it to a dealership friend who needs it. And make sure you're following the show so we can keep bringing you more content like this with convos with people shaping the power sports industry. Catch you on the next one.
Still guessing what to pay on a used bike? Still holding aged units that just won't move? It's time for a real system. Moto Hunt's Ultimate Used Inventory Playbook shows how the best dealers are finding better inventory, pricing trades right, and turning used bikes faster with fewer mistakes and more margin. It's short, real, and free to download right now. Visit dealers.motohunt.com to grab your copy or check for the link in the notes.